This is Scituate State of Affairs, discussing town news and town people in the news that have a direct impact on you, the Scituate resident. And the new school year is upon us, and that means a lot of new faces in that school system. Over at the high school, it's a whole new freshman class, a lot of new teacher faces, and a new principal leading the charge. Earlier this year, Superintendent Bill Burkhead announced that Marc Loranger would become the new principal of Scituate High School. Mr. Loranger comes with 29 years of experience, including being a teacher, coach, department head, athletic director, assistant principal, and most recently, the College Career and Technical Education Director for Plymouth Public Schools. Marc Loranger, good to see you. You're a busy man.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Been a little while.
I know, TikTok. We got to make this kind of quick. Let's start here. Principal Loranger, how does that title feel?
Good. Good. You know, when I was looking at possibly making the shift to become a high school principal, there wasn't a lot of communities that I wanted to go to. I didn't want to leave Plymouth, and I've been in Plymouth 29 years, so it was a real difficult decision. But when I saw Scituate opened up, something clicked, and my wife and I would bring our kids here when they were little to go to dinner in Scituate and hang out and go to Nono's ice cream when they were little kids and so on and so forth. So I always liked the community. So when this particular job opened up, it really drew an interest for me to apply.
And I do want to talk to you about Scituate High School, your plans, your goals. But let's go back and really start with you so people have an understanding. Plymouth native.
Yep.
And you got in the educational system in the mid-90s with athletics, correct?
Yeah, I started as a football coach, as a volunteer football assistant in 1993, and then applied to Plymouth South High School. I got into the in-school suspension room, and I did 4 years of in-school suspension, and got the head wrestling job that same year. And boy, I developed quite a wrestling team with those kids in school suspension. A lot of those kids, to give them an outlet out, we got them to wrestle. So we had about 70 kids in our room, all kids that were getting in trouble, that kind of started going down a different path. They started caring about their academics, and they had to get C's to participate. So we were able to connect with a lot of different kids, and I just fell in love with that. Like, I fell in love with that connection with kids, and you know, and seeing them achieve and do good things. It was changing their lives around, and you know, I think athletics has a lot to do with that, with a lot of kids.
Sure. And
yeah.
let's not sell you short on this whole wrestling, because in the wrestling world, you're, for lack of a better phrase, you're a bit of a beast. Let me just read this. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is my research. Your past includes almost 24 league titles. You've coached 5 state champs. You won Coach of the Year by National Wrestling Coaches Association. You were named Boston Globe Coach of the Year in 2006. You were inducted in the Massachusetts Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2015, and in 2021 you were inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was quite a thrill. Yeah, you know,
it's amazing.
When I got that call that I was going to go in, you know, into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame in Stillwater, Oklahoma, I was like, I actually thought my friends were kidding with me. I thought it was a friend that was playing a game and was calling me to, and I was going to get all excited, so I was kind of quiet at first, and you know, and then they had sent me the email right after the phone call with all the particulars, and we had the celebration banquet for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame at Gillette Stadium. And it was just a magical night. You know, I was so fortunate to be there. I went in with Rodney Smith, who was a bronze medal in the 1984 Olympics. So I was with some of the best wrestling people in the area, you know, or in the world. It was like, it was quite a thrill. Quite a thrill.
Tell me, what was it about wrestling that drew you in the first place?
Connections with the kids. You know, we had the largest wrestling team in the state of Massachusetts for about 15 straight years. We had over 70 kids in our room, and you know, and some of those kids never saw the mat, but they came back. You know, we had a staff that just connected well with kids, and we gave them a place to be every day after school. And you know, part of it, we were having success, so some kids wanted to be part of that too. But the connections with the kids, my wife and I have our ex-wrestlers over for dinner all the time. They knock on the door all the time. One of them came over Sunday with his kid and had dinner with us, and we were on the deck. You know, wrestled with me for about 12 years ago. You know, so those things are really like, money can't buy that. You know, there's nothing better in life than those things.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And now here we are in Scituate. You have a whole new crew of students to do. You know what I always find fascinating as a principal, you wear many hats, and frankly, your resume does cover that. You're a coach, you're an educator, you're a teacher, you're a mediator. Yeah. When you come into this role, what hat are you wearing?
Well, now improving education is the key, and that's, we look at the education in Scituate, and it's got really good education with good staff, and good leadership. I mean, I think the central office leadership's outstanding here, another reason why I wanted to apply, and there's a lot of support here, and, to one of the things we want to do is, to really improve school culture, and because when kids want to be here and they're feeling good about things and they got a safe environment to go to and they feel supported, then education gets better. They work harder in class. Teachers will prepare more for their lessons and their scope and sequence if they feel comfortable and they love coming into the building every day. And it's already a great building, so I want to try to make it even better.
Yeah, you did. In fact, I think you said one of the biggest keys to or positive, upbeat school culture really lends to the school student success.
Yeah.
How do you achieve that?
By more showing kids you care is like the first thing, and you do those in little subtle ways. You go into the classroom and you may have gone to a soccer game and somebody scored a goal, and you say, "Hey, I saw your goal last night. That was a great goal." Those connections. My high school principal did that for me all the time. He used to pull me out of the hallway and say something that, wow, he saw me somewhere else, and recognized it, and I never forgot that. I was always remembered how that made me feel, and it motivated me to go back to school the next day and be a good kid, and because I knew the principal was looking, and the administration was looking and cared about you. So, we're going to try to make connections. We hired a new assistant principal, Mrs. Kirk, and Mr. Louette's been here a long time. So, the three of us are really going to try to comb this building and make some good relationships.
Talk about the high school as a whole, meaning the state of that school. I ask the school committee members a lot just about where they get their information about how they formulate how a school is doing, because as we know, there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
When you consider Scituate High School and how it's doing, where do you go to get your information?
See, I look at kids involved in activities. I think that's gigantic. So when you've got a population, this school has a ton of kids involved in activities, and we just had a club fair this morning with the freshman orientation. We set up a club fair with all the different clubs we offer in here, and one of the messages we told the incoming freshman class was get involved. Get involved with a club, anything, find an interest, get involved, because I think that shows a school that's got good involvement. Kids aren't flying out of here at 3 o'clock to go home. They want to play sports. They want to be parts of the band. They want to get involved in the play and theater district. They want to do other things besides education. I think that's a sign of a real healthy high school.
Sure. Teachers play a big part of a student's success. What do you think makes a good teacher?
Involvement, making connections, teachers that make good connections with kids are great teachers. The kids want to be there, they make good connections, and that's one of the things we tell our young teachers. I spoke a little bit today for just very, very briefly at the new teacher orientation, and I said to the new teachers, make a positive connections with each and every one of your kids and they will flourish. Make a positive connection and they will flourish.
You are a father of three adult children, two daughters, one son.
Yes.
The daughters are in correct me if I'm wrong, in the education system. Your son is in sports management?
Yes, yep.
So that clearly ties quite a bit to you and your history.
Yeah.
What role do you think parents play in these students' success here at Scituate High School?
I mean, both my girls went into education, and my oldest I knew would. I thought Teresa, from when she was little, was, she was always with me on the wrestling mat and at football practices and things like that. And then when Caroline was born, she was as well. Caroline, her interest wasn't right away into education, and when she went through college with the Stonehill, got into early ed and started to love it. And so she's teaching now in Boston, at elementary school in Boston, and my older daughter Teresa is teaching at PCIS and coaching softball in Plymouth. And there's nothing I'm more proud of than that. Your kids are in education, because I mean, money aside, I think it's the greatest job in the world, because you make impact on kids, and like I said, you can't put a dollar sign on relationships and changing kids' lives and things like that. And my girls are doing that right now. It's great.
That's great.
And my son is now just got a job with the Red Sox. He's working with the Red Sox, and his goal is he wants to work with some kind of sports team. He'd love to be like a scout, an NFL scout, or he loves stats and numbers, and he's smart with that stuff, and so that's his goal, and right now he's working with the Red Sox, so he thinks he's a bigwig, but he's, he's really happy. We go to the game, and, he's up in the booth, and he's he's really doing well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I want to briefly go back to the parents and the participation, because you did talk a little bit about keeping students active. Again, how do you keep parents active in the school and the school culture?
we try to involve them in as much as we can. You know, we're sending out a lot of social media stuff about what's coming up and what's going, the school calendar, you know, inviting them to certain things and activities that are going here. I think the parents that you know want to take part in what's going on in the high school, if they look on the calendar or the new app, they're going to see a lot of activity, a lot of things to do to come and support the kids.
Parents will come to you with a lot of questions about that sort of those topics, as well as sort of social issues that are currently going on. As we know, even though schools are a place of education, they really have become part of the political playground, if you will. I don't really want to go into a whole lot of it because, frankly, as we know, DESE, which stands for the Department Elementary and Secondary Education, dictates a lot of how things roll in the schools. But certainly, parents are going to come to you with questions and concerns about issues. How do you approach that, or how do you manage that?
The first thing you do is listen. You know, you listen to what parents are saying and what they're asking. You try to answer to the best of your ability. And you know, parents come up with a lot of interesting things that you really don't think of. You know, and they give you some feedback on certain things, and sometimes you drive home and you're like, you know what, that made sense. What they said made sense. So, you know, I enjoy talking to parents. I enjoy sitting on the sidelines at a game and talking to a parent that, you know, and just getting their input on the way things are going. And, you know, you get a lot of information by just communicating and talking back and forth with one another.
Sure.
But, you know, I want to be a friendly face and an open door policy, and, you know, and with the kids all throughout the building, one of the things I say to them is, hey, come in the main office and say hi to me. You know, come on in, say hi to me, and you know, have a great day. You know, so I want to build that connection with the community of a friendly face. You know, to come in and help out kids the best we can.
Let's go back to those kids, specifically the freshman class, because in some ways you're a freshman. This is your first year. When you think about this freshman class, the class of 27, 28, you see them now in 4 years at graduation. What do you hope to see? What do you hope for them?
I mean, they'll be, you know, when we're at graduation, they'll be the group that went all the way through with you know, me and right. Mrs. Kirk is the, you know, first time administration, so it's special. You know, it's a special feeling because we're gonna have a special bond. You know, it'll be the first group that I have 4 years with. You know, so it'll certainly be a special bond. You know, and I'd like to meet and get to know a lot of them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that freshman class will be very, very special to you.
You know, ironically, that's what I did in Plymouth, at Plymouth South for 12 years. I was a freshman academy assistant principal, so I had the freshman class. And there were times that I thought about, geez, maybe I should move on to, you know, deal with sophomores through senior. I didn't want to go. I said, I love the freshman class. They're coming into a school, they're a little timid, everything's new. I loved it. And I always said, we'll take good care of you. Don't worry, you get in here, you know. And I loved leading that because it felt good to see a kid who walks in in September really nervous and shy, and she's by December they're excited to be there. They're involved in activities. They're running around showing their personality off, and you know, I loved that part of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Before we wrap this up, I got 2 more questions for you. I always ask students when I interview school committee candidates what questions they have for like the staff and everyone. They always have the same 2 questions. Question 1 is, what was your best high school subject in high school?
History for me.
History?
Loved history. It was one of the classes in college. Every time I had a chance to take an elective, I took a history elective. Loved learning history about, you know, my mother was born in Rome, so we've spent a lot of time in Rome when we were kids, and all the ancient history in Rome and all that, and the Colosseum. And, you know, as a kid, I was always buying books and reading books about history topics. And so, you know, not only ancient history, I love United States history too.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the second question, what was your worst subject in high school?
Probably, the science people are going to be mad at me, but probably science. The chemistries, you know, with the formulas and the math problems that go with that. That was probably my most difficult. Not that I wasn't interesting, it just I had a difficult time with it.
I get it.
I stayed after a lot in chemistry to get extra help. In fact, my chemistry teacher in high school, Mrs. Suspaniak, used to meet me in the morning before school for 20 minutes every day and go over the charts with me and I'll never forget it. Like, she got me through. I probably wouldn't have passed if she didn't meet me every morning.
Wow.
It was me and a couple other kids. We went every single morning a little bit early and went into a classroom and did some extra chemistry work.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Listen, Principal Loranger, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Chatter. Look forward to seeing you on day 1. Remember that first day of school, September 5th.
September 5th.
Tuesday, September 5th.
Yeah, looking forward to it.